ringer if you can, or if you want to make sure you know this stuff. I'd try these out, pause the video and do that. The key thing about it though is I'm going to go over these now. So again, pause the video if you're doing these problems so I don't just give you the answer. Key thing about an acute triangle is that every angle is acute, which means every angle is less than 90. You do want to kind of just make sure that every angle is small. So again, nothing here is 90 degrees or bigger, nothing there is 90 degrees or bigger, nothing there is 90 degrees or bigger. In terms of a right triangle, the key point is making sure you have a 90-degree angle somewhere in there, or what you would label as with that little box mark that is 90 degrees. I don't care what these two things are, because as long as that's 90 degrees, and everything is where it needs to be. In terms of an obtuse triangle, we're talking about a triangle that has an angle that's bigger than 90. So again, all you have to do is make sure your biggest angle is bigger than 90 degrees, which it doesn't matter if it looks bigger than 90 degrees. Once you put 100 degrees there, then this is now a 100-degree angle. What you have to learn in geometry is that a lot of your pictures don't match up with what might be, not a lot. There are pictures that don't match what you would see. So don't go by what you see, go by what is labeled. Part of the things that we're working on, again, is making sure we understand that two angles of a triangle plus a third angle makes 180. So again, what we got to remember is that angles of a triangle add up to 180. And so what you do there is you simply set it up, if you're using algebra, which you don't have to. If you have a calculator with you, you should try it out and simply put 83 plus 49, hit equals, and then hit divided by minus 180, and it'll actually show you that you don't need all the algebra, but either way you end up with 48 being your third angle. This is important because what we have to do is make sure we know how to deal with like terms. X and 4x go together to make 5x, 3 and 17 go together to make 20. Of course, if you're going to solve this, we get rid of our 20 first by subtracting 20. And again, if you wrote that down, that's great. But what I like to do, because I'm kind of beyond that point, is instead of writing minus 20, I just say I know that's going to go away, and I subtract 20 from 60. Then I recognize I'm going to divide by 5. And so instead of writing divided by 5, because I don't really need to, I know I'm dividing by 5, I bring down x and I say 40 divided by 5 is 8. But you do have to be able to find those values for your variable. Make sure if you have any issues with that, you shoot me an email. Quick quiz review on that stuff. One of the problems that we had on our quiz was this problem here where it said classify it by angle. And what you have to remember is that if the sides are congruent, we talked about the angle-side relationships, it means that the angles that are across from this side are also congruent, which means that this is equiangular, not equilateral. So again, if sides of a triangle are congruent, then their opposite angles are also congruent. So in that case, it would be equiangular, not equilateral. So when you see that on a quiz or test, make sure you remember, again, that is equiangular, because although they're giving you the sides, they want you to classify it by angle, not by side. Number 2, same thing. This is something you got to make sure you know all three sides add up to 180. So therefore, what you would do is say 57 plus 63 plus I don't know what, which is usually just a x, equals 180. Do the algebra to find out that x is 60. That's got to be something that becomes natural. Number 3 is another one that people missed a lot, but it's because of your angle-side relationships. Again, the angles being congruent tells us that, you know, as we just saw, if a problem has the sides of a triangle congruent, then the opposite angles are congruent. Well, in this case, it flips around. If the angles of a triangle are congruent, then the sides across from those angles are also congruent, which means all these sides are 20. Once you see a number and you know all the sides are congruent, you know that everything's 20. So therefore, if 4x is 20, because it says it's 20, then that means x has to be 5. Same reason, if 10y is equal to 20, that means that y has to equal 2. Number 4, it tells me that AB is congruent to BC. And so what you want to do is make sure that you take these two sides, and since AB is equal to BC, identify AB, take whatever AB is and represent it with 4x plus 2, put an equal sign, take whatever BC is and represent it with 5x minus 5, and once again, do the algebra. I would move my smaller x, which means I would subtract 4x from both sides. 2 comes down. I'm sorry, not 2. Well, 5x minus 4x is x, plus 5 would be 7. I guess I just worked it out because it was on your quiz anyway. But again, you should have got 7. The thing about this question, as it will be on your test, is that there's 3 points. Your first point is on the fact that it wants to know what x is. The second point is it wants to know what AB and BC are. So you take this 7, plug it in. 28 plus 2 is 30. 35 minus 5 is 30. So therefore, we know that AB and BC are 30. It also wants to know which is your third point. How big is AC, which is 14 plus 1, or 15. So just make sure you're ready to put those points down, because again, everything that you have to answer is a point. Make it a habit once you find your X of going back to read the directions and making sure you know what's going on there. Number 5, they tell me this is equilateral. When it's equilateral, it means that all these sides are equal. So I usually just link up two sides. It doesn't matter what it is, but you could have also linked up these two sides because those two things are also equal. Or, and again, not and, because you don't need to do all three, you could have also linked up those two sides. It doesn't matter which two you pick. Just make sure you pick two sides. Either way, after you finish that, you end up with X equals 3. That's your first point. Your second point is how big is each side. It doesn't matter what you pick because all these are equilateral, but we just want to check. 6 plus 4, again, plugging in 3. 6 plus 4 is 10. 9, because it's 3 plus 1 is 10. 12 minus 2 is also 10, which means that you want to make sure you get both of those points when you do that. So keep this in mind as we continue to move forward. I will exercise compassion and empathy. What that means is I will try to view things from your perspective and act accordingly. But what I will not do is show sympathy. That means I can't feel sorry for you, and I can't feel sorry for you because I know you're able to help yourself. If you want to pass this semester, make sure you start helping yourself. Don't expect for me to do any more than lots of things that I'm doing for you already to help you learn. Giving you a grade doesn't help you. Helping you to figure out things for yourself, helping you to make good decisions is really going to help you more than anything else. And that's really what I'm here to do. So I'm putting videos up. I'm trying to make sure you can email me at any point. I'm giving you lessons that, go as far in depth as I can. You have to take the step and actually meet me halfway. Otherwise, nothing's going to work. 4.2 talks about angles of triangles. So most of the important parts of geometry are used to give us what we call common sense assumptions. Now, me as a math teacher, I have to know them as theorems. I have to know what they do. I have to know a lot of things. But at this level, 334, you just need to make sure you can recognize what's going on and make a good call. So it seems weird because one of the most important rules of making good decisions is to never assume anything. But the trick is that what I call a common sense assumption is based on experience, something you trust because you've experienced it, because it's happened 1,000 times and it's always worked. So what we are giving you is something where you can look and say, hey, I know that this is true, so I'm going to use it to help me out. 3 things we're going to discuss right now have to become part of your own common sense and be used appropriately. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to work through some basic problems, because what the problems will do is they'll put that one little thing that's supposed to be something you can recognize, and it'll leave you stuck where you can't move beyond wherever is in front of you. So common sense assumption number 1, by the way, this is on that note guide, which I think is on the PDF attached, is that the interior angles of a triangle add up to 180. We've talked about that already. So again, x, 2x, and x plus 20. If that's the case, looks impossible because you've never seen it. And you're like, well, I don't know what x is, and there's a whole lot of x's. But what we can do is say if these things are all inside the triangle, which they are, and they add up to 180, then I can say for a fact, assume safely that x plus 2x plus x plus 20 has to equal 180 because they're all inside the triangle. Like terms, 1, 2, 3, 4x plus 20 is 180. Again, you would subtract your 20. I'm not going to do the algebra because you can do that on your own. But subtracting 20 gives me 160. Dividing by 4 gives me 40. You could then use this 40 to go back and say this is 40 degrees, this is 80 degrees, and this is 60 degrees if you needed to get what you needed out of it. The number 2 assumption is that every exterior angle is the sum of its remote interior angles. Now this is important, but you can kind of survive without it in most situations. But let's just see if we can do what's going on. It does look intimidating, but again, look at the words. It says exterior angle. And so when we're talking about a triangle, we know that those are interior angles. So the way you get an exterior angle is you extend one of the sides. So you could extend that side out. You could extend this side out, this side or that side. Doesn't matter as long as it's straight. So we'll just put one there. This would be the interior. That would be your exterior. And so let's just make a problem up and test what we know. So we know, let's just say this is 20 degrees. I don't know what this angle is, so I'll just put an X. I don't know what this angle is, and I know it's not the same, so I'm going to put a Y. I definitely don't know what this angle is. Well, I do, but whatever it is, let's just say it's Z. So what we're looking at here is that inside the triangle, because we just proved this, 20 plus x plus y, because they're all inside, should be 180. Another thing we know or should know is that if there's two angles that make a straight line, that they also add up to be 180. Well, using connections here, both of these things equal 180, which means both of these things have to be the same because they both equal 180. If we algebraically just subtract 20 from both sides, 20 goes away over here, 20 goes away over there, and what we have left over is x plus y equals z. Well, revisit the statement. It says every exterior angle. Well, your exterior angle is z, and so there is your z. And it says it's equal to the sum of its remote interior angles. But again, the words are kind of crazy, but what do we know about using a remote? If z is right next to 20, or you are standing right next to your TV, do you need a remote to change the channel? No, you can just reach out and do it. So this is not a remote interior. These two are your remote interiors because they're far away from that angle. And so when we talk about the sum of the interior angles, there's your x plus y. And so the x plus y equals z is what we're looking at. It's literally just taking these two things, adding them up to get whatever is out there. As I said, this is important, but it's not absolutely important because you can typically work your way around it. I also did kind of make a short video of me showing you. In this video, you have your exterior angle out there, and you have your remote interior angles there, and I'm going to show you by kind of working this out and proving to you that the angle 2 and angle 3, actually if you put them together, make the value of your exterior angle. So what I did was I cut out angle 2, and I cut out angle 3, and then from there I simply stacked them on the area where the exterior angle is, just to show you that it takes up the same amount of space, which means that angle 2 plus angle 3 automatically equals your exterior angle. All right, so key thing again is just making sure you understand the concept. It's not about being perfect on all this stuff, but just make sure you understand how to use it. So if you ever saw this problem here, they want them numbered angles. First off, angle 1 is an exterior angle. So because it's an exterior angle, notice how this is straight. You can say the remote interior angles are 25 and 35, which means that it has to be 60 degrees. But even if you don't know that angle 1 is exterior, you could start by saying, hey, angle 2 is inside of our triangle. So that means angle 2 plus 25 plus 35 equals 180, which is what we started off our day with, which means that angle 2 is 120. So you could have went this way to start. You could have went this way to start. But either way, after you get this angle and after you get this angle, both of these things are supplementary, which means that you simply use supplementary angles. So if you knew this was 60 and you were looking for angle 2, you could just do 180 minus 60 to get 120. Or if you went this way and knew that angle 2 was 120, then you could just do 180 minus 120 to get 60. But notice 120, 120, 60, 60. There's a lot of different ways to do that stuff. You just want to be careful and you want to make sure you figure out what's going on and just make a choice. Vertical angles are also congruent, or what we call equal. So what are vertical angles? Well, they're angles that are formed by two straight intersecting lines. So if you had two straight lines like this, what you have here are four angles: angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, angle 4. You could label them however you want. But the key thing about this is, if you look at the angles, the ones that are facing opposite directions, like angle 1 and angle 3, are actually the same size. Just like the ones pointing up, which would be 2 and 4, are also the same size. This is important because this actually does hide from you, and if you don't recognize that you have two straight lines, you can get stuck in some things. What I usually do is I just imagine the V from vertical. So this would be your upwards V, so the opposite V would point down. That means that the upward angle is equal to the downward angle. Same thing if you had your V going sideways, that would be this V is going to be congruent to the other V, which would be off to the right, which is angle 3. So if you're answering this question, once again, the whole point is you have to be able to find things so you can keep moving. Angle 1 shouldn't be that hard to find. So because it's part of a triangle that has two angles in it, it's almost complete. So what you're going to do is say angle 1 plus this plus that equals 180. You'll do the algebra. You'll figure out that angle 1 is 56. Again, you can copy that. You can work that out for yourself. You can continue on your own if you want, but just make sure you agree. And if you don't, send me an email. Let me know that I need to explain this more. But here's the problem. I can't find either of these two because I only have one angle. So there's no way for me to get from the first triangle to the second triangle. So right now what we're looking at is there an exterior angle? Well, there's not, because if there was, it would be over here or over here. But we do have a vertical angle, and what we're looking at is angle 1 and angle 2 are opposite V's because we have straight lines. So that means that angle 2 is also 56 degrees. Once I know that angle 2 is 56 degrees, I now have two angles in the triangle that I can say this plus that equals 180. Again, angle 2 is 56, which means now I do the algebra the same way to find out that angle 3 is 74 degrees. It's not a tough situation, but you do have to make sure you're paying attention. Just keep in mind the importance of practice is memory. You typically will not remember something until you've done it enough times. So with this being common sense, you will not be able to just look at a picture and make the right choice until you've practiced looking at a picture and making the right choice. That means you're going to have to look at a picture and make the wrong choice at least a few times until you have enough experience to say, I know that this is what I'm supposed to do. The common sense required to work through geometry problems does require for you to recognize certain things when they are given. So again, make sure you're doing your work to try to practice these things. Talk to me again if you're gone out of school a lot so I can try to figure out a way to get you some practice. If there's any lingering questions that I can assist, make sure that you email me so I can help you out. But outside of that, I am going to go ahead and end this here. I will talk to you later, and have a good day.